Okay, it gives me great pleasure to bring on board the CEO and Managing Director of Indian Hotels, the firm which manages India's biggest hotel chain, uh, to talk about the quarterly numbers, how things are progressing on the balance sheet front, and globally, now that the impact of the virus is settling down, are things really looking up on the international front as well? International business as well as inbound international tourism. Mr. Chhatwal, fantastic to have you back on. Thank you for joining us. It's good to see that the hotel is back in black. Profits are there now. Without getting into a year-on-year comparison, because that would be unfair for us to compare, I want to understand the dynamics of the quarter gone by, because the last quarter, Mr. Chatwal, was a very peculiar quarter, at least in our book. It started with a lot of promise, which captured the Diwali, Dussehra, and the holiday season. But just when things were looking up, the Omicron virus hit us. So it's been a quarter of, I would say, both good and bad.
Yes, thank you, Nikunj. You're absolutely right on the quarter being a bit peculiar, but it was still the most positive quarter of the 7 quarters that have gone by for the industry, the tourism industry in general, and hospitality in particular. What we have learned is after the first wave, it took almost 6 months in certain states and in other states, depending on the lockdowns and the restrictions imposed, even up to 9 months for the industry to come back. Then came the devastation of the second wave, which was very, very strong. But the industry started bouncing back in 3 months. And then we were confronted with the third wave or the Omicron as of the 20th of December. But the effect on the cancellations and on the drop in business started subsiding as of 15th of Jan. And I would say it could be fair to estimate that the last 1 week has been positive for the business and the pickup is strong, especially the last 2-3 days. And this week is really critical because of the holiday in the middle of the week, in the week gone by. So I think at the end of this week, we will know more if this trend continues. I personally remain very optimistic that the trend will continue and the bounce back will be faster and the period would be shorter.
The real bounce back, Mr. Chatwal, will happen when the business travel will normalize. Leisure travel had picked up, and we can experience that as well. We can see that as well, and we can feel that as well. But the bulk part of any hotel chain is when the business travel will come back. Has that started coming back?
Absolutely, it did start coming back at a different segment level. I would say it has not started coming back at luxury level or at upper upscale level to the extent that we would have liked to have it, especially in the two key metros, that is Delhi NCR and Mumbai. They are the engines of business for our sector. And they are very important and they definitely rely more on business than on leisure. However, having said that, there is a certain segment that is emerging, even in leisure, in which people are combining the business and leisure trip. The term leisure was coined maybe like 5, 10, 15 years ago, but the real impact of leisure has been witnessed in the last couple of years. So if people are going to a leisure destination and are combining business because the work from home is on, I don't think you can 100% classify that as leisure travel only. So having said that, I think the business is beginning to come back. People feel the need of building new relationships. That is important for the business. And I think work from home has also set in a certain form of fatigue. And there will be a good balance that we will see emerging over the next 6 to 8 weeks, in which people will first start combining work from home and business in person, followed by hopefully things getting back to the way they were in a pre-pandemic period.
Mr. Chatwal, is Indian hotels on the path of better profitability and more returns? And let me just expand on my question for the benefit of our viewers. Your business is almost back to pre-COVID levels, but your operating costs are 20% lower, overheads are down 23% lower. So is this the new normal, that when things will normalize, hopefully which they are in this quarter if nothing negative happens, your overheads will settle at least 15-17% lower than your pre-COVID levels?
Absolutely right, Nikunj. That is in line with the guidance that we have provided, but it is not just the level in absolute terms of fixed costs. With the kind of growth journey we have embarked upon, the productivity is also important and is an important element going forward. So if we were to take our fixed costs per hotel in operation or fixed costs on the total in portfolio, including the hotels in the pipeline, if we were to take those fixed costs and some portion of it was to be allocated to our new businesses, I think the pandemic for the industry globally has been good in reviewing the cost structure and how you could do almost similar amount of things and become a more efficient industry. It's not about Indian hotels. I think it's almost every player in this industry has been able to readjust their cost base both on the fixed cost level as well as on the variable cost level.
Hi, Puneet. Aisha as well joining in. What I wanted to understand was, more in the short term, whether or not because of Omicron, your Capex plans have actually taken a backseat or not.
Well, Aisha, we don't build strategies for short term. Short term is just tactical. Our strategies, which have been communicated to the market, we have walked that talk during the pandemic, and we will be walking that talk much faster post-pandemic. Of course, every wave, whether it's called Omicron or Delta, is a setback and it puts you behind. However, it also makes you more and more resilient. And as Nikunj just pointed out, Q3, at least for almost 60, 70 days of Q3, were a testimony to the resilience that the industry has demonstrated and its ability to bounce back. So I think travel being a fundamental need, I think going forward, even after Omicron, they will be alive. People are getting used to it. The vaccinations are helping. The boosters are helping. More and more people are venturing out. And some of us, like yourself and myself, who live in Mumbai, we are almost facing similar traffic in different pockets. For me, it's the Pedal Road. And, for some others, it may be Bandra or it may be, parts of Andheri.
Yeah, absolutely. It continues to be a menace in our lives in Mumbai, doesn't it? If I were to look back at your journey during COVID years, I would say the biggest disruption and the potential for disruption, and please correct me, Puneet, if I'm wrong here, is actually Cumin. I wanted to understand how that business is shaping up, and in the long haul, what's the strategy to build up the Cumin platform?
Thank you, Aisha, for that question. I think it's very important. What we have been communicating with the investors and analysts is we have divided our business into the traditional business, which is our backbone, the Taj, the Vivanta, and some of our hotels under the Selections brand, which is each of the hotel having its own story. However, then there is a new business which has one old brand name but is completely reimagined. That's the Ginger, the Ama as Homestay, and Cumin. Now, specifically to Cumin, Cumin is today present in 20 cities. It's working on its own app. We have also ventured out with Cumin in QSR in the city of Bangalore, opening 11 outlets in the last quarter. We've opened a few outlets, 2 in Mumbai, 2 in Delhi at the Connaught and the Ambassador, and in Mumbai at the President and the Taj Wellington Mews. So taking that total to almost 15. And the Cumin business has evolved quite well for us. We are optimistic to increase presence to 25 cities. And of course, as more and more cities open up, as there are less and less restrictions and lockdown, there would be an adjustment in demand, but we are here to stay with this business. And in all these businesses, one of the strategies that we have is to be the premium brand in that relevant segment. So if we are talking about ginger, then ginger has to be the most premium value proposition. If you're talking about cumin, it has to be the most premium value proposition on both home delivery or on the QSR front. So, and that is very much synonymous with the strategy which we have had over a century with Taj. So we don't want to do anything that dilutes the positioning of any of these brands and impacts the whole company. On the contrary, all of these brands, as is proven by the figures of Q3, have actually helped us to increase the margin, even in a pandemic period, to hit more than 30% on consolidated, which includes international properties for us, and 37% plus on standalone, is not coming just from the traditional business. It is assisted and supported by the new businesses.
Okay, so that's, of course, the digital play over there that's taking place. Good morning, Mr. Chhatwal. This is Nayanthara Rai. It's no secret that the Tata Group is always looking out for marquee acquisitions. Now, with the pandemic, we have seen, for example, some big hotel assets, marquee assets, which became distressed. They've been bought. Anything that might be on your radar, whether it's in India or overseas, because you've also, in your international properties, started to see an uptick.
Yes, I think from a strategic perspective, except for very, very compelling proposition on the domestic front, we are not into investment into assets for almost 4 years now. Our entire growth model is based on asset light strategy or signing operating leases for our Ginger brand. But it's very nice to meet Tata Group and marquee acquisitions. We do hope to benefit with the latest acquisition on the airline front, together with Vistara and AirAsia, to get our fair share of the business, which we already have, but maybe consolidate and take it to the next level.
Okay, so Indian Hotels is also going to be a gainer from that marquee acquisition of, or rather the Maharaja coming back home to the Tata Group. Mr. Chhatwal, it's always a pleasure talking to you. Thank you so much for joining us live. The market's, of course, expecting a big uptick after every wave of coronavirus. We have seen that revenge travel is indeed a thing.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me.